What are the particular challenges do you find to cutting a pilot? Is there more experimentation you can do, or is there more pressure on that episode?
I feel like every show that I've worked on, that sort of first episode or the first couple episodes, it's like the hardest part of it is just figuring out what it is. There's usually when you're on a pilot or when you're on like the first episode of a season of something, no one knows exactly what it's supposed to be, and there's sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen, so it's like everybody's giving feedback or like changing something. There's one show, it was a reality show that I worked on for like several months. It took months and months to get the pilot episode to like what it was supposed to be. We went through so many different rounds of notes and cuts and, internal feedback, network feedback. And I think we delivered it like 2 days before it aired or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it is. Yeah. I think the first episode of anything is always probably the hardest, because at least once you're on the next ones, you're like, okay, they've tried everything and they've figured out this is what it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. And the process of the offline to online edit, how much of that stuff do you handle then, Steph? I mean, that was a question from the chat as well. So what elements of online, like color correction and the sound design do you actually do?
So usually, like with any cuts that I do, I try to make it as polished as possible, because I feel like you get less notes when you get it as close to what you think the finished thing should look like. In your final deliverables, obviously any color correction that I do myself or any sound design that I do myself, someone's going to go and do it better eventually. But I do usually try to at least make like a framework of what it ideally will look like once it hits the online. But yeah, as far as color correction goes, I don't usually, unless something like a shot really doesn't match or there's like an angle that really doesn't match the other ones, I don't usually mess with that too much from my end, unless it really will change the feel of what I'm working on.
Great advice, right? Great advice to always put your best cut forward and sell that cut. It cracks me up sometimes when people are like, I don't do audio, I don't do color. It's like, well, I don't either, but make it look as good, make it sound as good to try and sell your idea, and give yourself a best shot. You never want someone thinking like, why is that so washed out?
Right.
So that's great advice.
Yeah. And so many times, like the notes that you get will be like, oh, this is a clunky like sound edit here, or this, so it's like, you still have to deal with that stuff, even if it's not the final round. It's like, you still have to sell it to producers, to directors, and then to like the network, so if it passes like the network person and they're like, okay, this is fine now, at least, you've kind of made it into what it should be or what it's going to eventually look like.